Broken down and defeated, deterred and chained, busy and confused, sleeping. You are dying while I wait you to get started on the journey chosen, wasted, now it's selected. I was so bad, what happened? Fall out of the sky and crush me in my smile. I was so bad, what happened? Fall out of the sky and crush me in my smile. Sober, sad and jaded. They're not coming, they're broken down and defeated. You are dying while I wait you to get started. You are dying while I wait you to get started. I was so bad, what happened? Fall out of the sky, yeah. Crush me in my smile. I was so bad, what happened? Fall out of the sky and crush me in my smile.
I'm a motherfucking unicorn, a one of one. Divine being of love and light, the enlightened one. My karma isn't just stellar, I live by truth. Fighting evil, my scars are living proof. Protecting you from the storms with all my might. Love me, I will treat you right. You ever cross me, it's the last thing you'll ever do. With my crown of thorns, I'll wreck you. I ain't playing, yo, Bryan hard, call me insane. Too bad Chris, because Bigfoot knows my name. I'm a messenger of God, with loyalty I serve. Taking out all evil with his holy word. A true Knights Templar, sword in hand. Slice you up, bury you in the sand. I'm a motherfucking unicorn, you'll never find anyone like me. Born in the Bronx, raised in NYC. So listen up, take heed. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. A true Knights Templar, sword in hand. Slice you up, bury you in the sand. I'm a motherfucking unicorn, you'll never find anyone like me. Born in the Bronx, raised in NYC. So listen up, take heed. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Hey, everybody. Happy April Fools. And we have the Easter Bunny Mark here right now. It's good to
Happy
have
Easter,
you.
everyone.
Happy Easter. Little known fact, and I'm going to spill the beans, Mark. Mark is pregnant. No, he's not. It's April Fools. I couldn't
It
find
goes
my.
along. It goes along with the wood carving that was posted earlier today by Paranormal Paul.
Oh, the not a problem. Is that a Burmese prince you got there, or are you just happy to see me? Yeah, I'm gonna move my microphone a little bit closer. It's really great to have everybody here. Straw Dog, Michelle Psychic Medium, great to see you. Hillbilly Herb. We have the Half Inch Wrench crew, Adam from that. And we have the Michigan UFO and Paranormal channel is in here, Wayne and Michelle. Michelle was right in there, and we do appreciate more and more people coming in. But I've been looking forward to chatting with our guest, Mark, for the longest time. He's pretty much, I would say you're a regular, Nathaniel, on Wayne and Michelle's broadcast, and you always bring the heat, which is good. It's wonderful to really connect with someone who is actually doing research and investigating and is knowledgeable and so on and so forth. What's great about this field is we all have our own hypothesis about what things are and how they operate. Some people I don't believe there's any experts personally, but there are people that are more knowledgeable than other people because they have more experience and they do more research. And some of the individuals and some of the things I've from Nathaniel, I'm kind of on the fence with, and other things I'm like, okay, I could see it, but I can't believe that he's here. I'm just going to bring him in, and we're gonna start this off because I can't wait. So Nathaniel J. Gillis, which I didn't put into it, I knew there's like it's a J in his name, and it's really interesting because I've done the research and. I just saw you, like on your tags. I think I may have gone with the Instagram one because that's how we were connecting for the most part. And I just saw the full tag, but I didn't see the J. I just couldn't, get it. I apologize about that. But I really want to welcome you to the Third Eye live broadcast.
Thank you.
It's actually, in my opinion, an honor to have you on here. You are very knowledgeable. And there's a lot of people here that straddle both my podcast and other shows you've been on. You call it a broadcast more so than a podcast, but it is podcasted. So before we start and we get into the nitty gritty and all that stuff, for those that do not know who you are, can you give a brief bio of like how you got started in this, like what led you to this point and how you got started? So we'll give you the spotlight there.
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you guys. It's always nice to meet new people in the field and meet new good people. It's told you guys in the green room, that's like one of the more beneficial things about being in this field. Of course, it's great to see my friends from Michigan on the show in the chat room. Of course, my name is Nathaniel Gillis. I grew up in a haunted house. And I was experiencing various manifestations of whatever this is. Shadow figures, disembodied voices, full-bodied I saw one full-bodied apparition. All of this at the young age of 8 years old. And then I would carry all of these experiences into my church and into my church school. And they really didn't have any answers for me outside of alienation and just saying, okay, okay, all right, little one, you're crazy, that kind of thing. Absolutely. There we go about it. There we go. So it was tough, and but it was something that I had to go through. And but that was my origin story. And the older I got, the more I invested my time into the literature, and then I went out after a certain period going into investigations, like in-home investigations. And then I kind of encountered some things I didn't understand and that didn't fit into my worldview. And then I went right back to the literature because I knew I had to have a balance of both. It was not good enough for me, right, to just go out there experiencing. I had to have a frame of reference. What do the traditions say about this particular manifestation, right?
Right.
And then I got to a point where I got into Vallée's work, John Keel's work, Demonology of the Ancient Near East, and abduction literature. And that was kind of the speed reading through my history. But then I connected to Barry Fitzgerald and Steve Mera in the United Kingdom. Now I partnered up with Steve and doing research because I knew, like, I didn't have that much experience in parapsychology. And
Right.
Steve's like the leading in my mind, leading parapsychologist in the world. And it's been a gift. So that's who I am. That's what I do. My interest now is backing out of labels. I'm looking at
That's interesting.
I'm looking at mechanisms. It's something that Vallee touches on as well. Even Keel touches on it. But I'm looking at mechanisms. Like, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? And what's actually happening? You know, a lot of people, I mean, I go on podcasts. That's what they want me to talk about specifically, right? My label, you know, it's like, okay, that's fine. But somewhere in that kind of research, we have to dive into what's actually going on. What are they able to do? What are they not able to do? Is there a limitation to their abilities? And so that's really where I'm at. And but I do appreciate the opportunity to discuss the research, to dive into it. So thank you.
No, it's actually a pleasure to have you here. And I mean, I've been in their chat, Michelle, and when you chat. Quite often I've asked you some questions and
I remember that. Yeah, it's awesome, man. Yeah.
I mean, I don't go, how do I do this without sounding like an asshole or whatever? Pardon the expression. I'm not, when I go into chat and I'm asking questions, I'm not doing it. I'm not like, there's too many people out there. I've met them. I hate them that try to like, oh, I got you. You know,
I've had researchers send their people into my shows, into the chat room, to tell me how much they hate me. And I think that's just ridiculous. So I get it. I appreciate that, Bryan. Yeah. Good looking out, man.
We had someone come into our chat, and he just showed up. Mm-hmm. And I posted an image because who was it in the government was saying how there's alien breeding programs with humans. And I just take something to try to throw something up there to get your attention for a minute. So maybe point us to the show, because everybody that's been visiting the show and has been a guest of the show really enjoys the show. And I'm not doing that to promote myself or whatever. It's hard to get the buzz going. Mm-hmm. And this guy came out of nowhere. He's like, there's no such thing as aliens. People who promote aliens are mentally ill. And then he wrote, you, Bryan, are mentally ill. And you'll never become conscious until you disobey the government. I'm like,
all right.
And I'm sitting there going like, dude, I never asked you to come into my show. I never asked you for whatever. And this is the problem in this world. And this is why I love the fact that you're trying to get rid of the labels. Because this guy clearly thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And he's harassed some people in my chat. So if you show up, you're done. But I don't like that. Let's treat people with respect and equally. But I don't believe there is one person like you're better than the other. Like I said before, Nathaniel has literally started off. You and I are very similar. And I will be brutally honest. I never forget a face. And I don't know where you grew up.
Yeah.
But I literally, every time I see you, I'm like, I know you.
Yeah.
And 100 freaking %. I know you. I know you.
Yeah.
Very familiar. And I've had that before where you're walking. Yeah, we all do like Nathaniel, you're doing these shows. You're the guest on the show. You're doing symposiums or whatever. So people know who you are. But it's also like, I get people every once in a while it happens. And I'm like, they're looking at me as if they know me or whatever.
Brother.
No. And I'm like,
weird.
It is really weird because there's a certain look when you're like, I know you, and then you get into the thing where in the subject matter, well, were you abducted? and all
Yeah.
in the area, and you know each other, but you don't realize you know each other from wherever you were taken to as a subject.
Dude, I had an instance, not of the abduction, but of like that meeting, if you will. Like I lectured in, oh my gosh, it was in 2019. And I did a lecture in Mississippi. And it was wild time, man. Anyways, I'm in the airport with my luggage and stuff, and I walk by one of the workers, and it was a woman. There's my buddy. I'm like, what are you? I'm a nice guy. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Like, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a while. It's been like what, a week? And I'm looking at, I do not know her.
I have no idea who you are, lady.
No idea. And I'm like, sure. She's like, no, I did. You told me you were going to go, speak, and it was just so good to see you. And I'm like, what? There's another thing that had happened to me, and I still can't understand this, man. I go to these weird dreams, and I always have since I was a kid. But in this particular dream, I walk out of the house.
Right.
I walk out into like the neighborhood, and I'm walking on the sidewalk. And I come across this, like, it looked like a youth group, a church youth group or something, but that's just my background. But it was just a bunch of 15-year-olds playing volleyball and stuff. And I walk by and I start, how you guys doing? You go, you want to play? That's what they asked. We need another player, man. You want to play? I'm like, I'm not very athletic. I'm kind of a fat guy now, so I'm not even going to try. And I don't want to hurt myself, man. No, but we kind of hit it off really well. And then I walked back into around the neighborhood, went to my house, whatever. And I wake up a year later, and this still trips me out. A year later, I wake up, I go into the dream, walk out of the same house. That's weird enough. Walk around the corner. There's that same guy out in the front lawn. And he looks at me and goes, where you been, Nathaniel? It's been a while. And I noticed that he had aged.
Really?
And that freaked me out, man. I got out of the dream and I was like, that's like too real. But
that
yeah,
is also very rare
weird.
to actually do that. This is why I'm telling you, it's really weird. What part of the world did you grow up? The United States?
Dayton, Ohio, man.
I don't know. I mean, like, I have yet to be in Ohio. But I'm telling you, it's kind of hard to put my finger on it. No, I've always said it. I'm looking at, when you're on the show and I'm like, I know him. Mm-hmm. And it's totally different. Like, having friends and, you meet people and like growing up, like I'm hearing this voice on the air and I'm like, what the hell is, I know that voice. And it's like during a video and I turn around and I'm like, holy crap, that's Chuck. And Chuck D from the Public Enemy. I know Chuck. Mm-hmm. Like we're hanging out. Like like why don't you say you were doing shit like this? And it's weird. It's just bizarre. So I know in your research there was a lot of stuff about. Is there like a demonologist or something along that lines?
Yeah. So what happened was like before I ever did a lecture, before I ever did an interview, I got on to Coast to Coast, and
that's great. Who's your agent?
I just pitched it, man, and I get
called me
5 minutes later. It's like my phone's ringing. It's like Los Angeles, and I'm losing my mind because I'm an Art Bell baby, and that's what the producer called me back then. You're an Art Bell baby, and I'm like, sure am. I mean, I would fall asleep to bumper music, right? Betty Davis eyes.
Me too.
Come on, man. Who has better? I mean, it's like, okay, he's already like almost intoxicating. You know what I mean? Like and then it's like therapy. And then you also go to the bumper music, and that's equally as good. And just sitting there floating. It's like, my goodness.
This is great.
It was amazing, so I was excited. But once I got on there, like my research was so niche, they didn't know where to put me. And so I was like, well, I'm kind of reinterpreting some of the old demonological texts, and I have a new position on it. And they're like, okay, we're going to go ahead and, we're going to put in their spiritual warfare. That's the subject. We're going to put you as a demonologist. So once you're in front of 3.5 million, boom, every other interview was like, here you go, right? And it was over, Bryan. It was over, buddy. And so now it's like, I mean, literally, like I would get emails, like We want you on the show, Nathaniel. You know, we notice you're on A, B, and C. And again, a great deal of my body of work is centered around demonology and ancient Near East. But I'm kind of like everywhere, man. I love ufology. I love abduction literature. I love the debug phenomenon, the incubi. And so parapsychology for that matter. So what happened was I kind of got pigeonholed, right? Identified as that. Then every other interview was kind of framed around that model. Or even that subject matter. And so what I've been doing now, though, is kind of diving into parapsychology. And what's so crazy is I'm like often too secular for the sacred and too sacred for the secular. Like they can't really put right. It's like I don't really care whatever you think, bro. I don't really care. I just want to talk about the work. You know, y'all can have that. You know, so that's where I'm at, man. And it is uncomfortable at times. But there is something about being, I guess, unique that I like. You know, I don't like to be kind of put in that little corner. You stay there, and it's been beneficial. Actually, it's funny.
well, it's interesting because what you just said, like, so you're doing all this research. I love the fact that you were very proactive and you went out there and you sold them on something, which was you. But this is what everybody should be doing, though. So I love that. I tell this to my kids, like, you need to work on marketing you. Why do you need to be at that company? Like, you know, you want them to like, we want her, we want Nathaniel. But the problem is when you start researching, and I do it all as well. The only thing I really don't mess with, and I'll tell you straight up, it's way above my pay grade, is demons and, you know, satanic stuff. I know about it. I don't go there. It's not my, you know, I have other people that, you want to go there, bro? Do it, or whatever. So we send them to certain areas. Because when you have children, you don't want to bring anything that may be negative or whatever back with you. So I just don't do it. It's not me. But you know, I get that message from A&E or whatever, the parent company of like Travel Channel, like, oh, we want you on. We saw you on X, Y, and Z interviews. We want you to do this show.
Yeah. So
now I'm doing I'm doing a TV show, and they're calling me a UFO historian. And then I'm like, whatever, I do it. You get your $200, big deal. It doesn't matter, but it makes you feel good because at least someone's paying attention to your work.
Right.
And what I love about Nathaniel is when you present, and we're going to talk, this is going to be a long interview, folks, pretty long until he has to say, like, the hell with all you, I got to go. You know, but it's like, you're not just saying, hey, trust me on this. You're telling people to do more research. You know, but you get pigeonholed. I'm a UFO historian. I was on another show. I am a leading cryptozoologist. This is how you get all these titles, everybody.
Yeah.
And to be honest, he's Nathaniel J. Gillis, and he knows. And I'm Bryan Bowden, and that's Mark, the Bunny Eddy. You know, and that's where we are. No, playing with you, Mark. But this is where it works for us. But I love what you're doing. You know, and how you're getting out of that title. Like, yeah, I did that. I got my foot in the door. Now here you go. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
They don't know how to book me, to be honest with you. I'm telling you, it's like, well, look, and again, that's a gift and a curse. But my approach to the phenomenon has been holistic. I mean, I look at every tradition I possibly can, and I've been castigated for that. You know, I had somebody on Instagram come after me because they didn't like a book I had in my library. Like they have permission to tell me what I'm allowed to read. Ridiculous, absolutely insanity. And this goes to, you know, it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I think that again, in order to understand more about the phenomenon, we should read everything we can get our hands on. We have to, you know, we have to pour ourselves into these case studies to understand not the right answer, not even that. If we give me the right question, right?
Yes.
Give me the right questions, because, and this is a frustration that my colleague Steve and I share. It's like, okay, what do we really know about this? Okay, let's start back. Okay, let's go back through orbology. What we're realizing now is, yes, we've captured UAPs on camera. We go back to or we see a UAP, rather. We go back to the camera. It's just a ball of light.
Right.
Just a ball of light. Same thing again with again, Lloyd Auerbach's work in parapsychology. Okay, we thought we were capturing an apparition. Turns out it was just a ball of light on camera. And Barry Taff, right, cornering that ball of light at the San Pedro haunting, and Jackie Hernandez. It was a corpuscular ball of light till it projected an orb. So what we're realizing is, okay, and I just did a live on my Parasymposia about this, where it's like, you know, that one documentarian says, okay, I'm gonna create this documentary because, you know, I'm interviewing these people and they're convinced. They tell me I know what I saw. It's like, that's probably the least of what we know. Like, right? Like, that's not, you know, right? So it's been tough to deconstruct a lot of these models, because if in fact we are entertaining or interfacing with an intelligence that has the ability and the desire, both of them combine their problem to diversify itself. Right? I'm a ball of light, but I want to be perceived as an electronic voice. Right. Or again, I'll go into Stephen Mera, Barry Fitzgerald cases where they had literally these balls of light that were transplacing audio onto their devices.
Yeah.
And then they send it off, and these are like Class A EVPs, right? Like, they're as clear as you and I talking right now on the show. The only problem is the tape was outside of the recorder. And when they went and did research on the timing, the same time they captured the EVP was the same time they had one of the balls of light hovering over the tape. So if all we know, again, are the apparitions and not the orbs projecting them, and if all we know are the EVPs but not the orb that's transplacing them, then we have a significant issue in the way we've been interpreting this thing. Go back 100 years ago. If all we know is what we saw, not realizing that, yes, there's an orb following it at all times, then now we have to ask ourselves, and this is probably the craziest revelation. And it's troubling for me because it does keep me up at night, where it's like, okay, if in fact all we have is the mask, the apparition is like the projection, then, and we go around mythologizing that, right? Then we're mythologizing the mask itself and not the true phenomenon.
Right, the real foundation.
The real thing, buddy. And the reason that is a problem is because it undermines a lot of the older research of, well, I saw horns and hooves, I saw an apparition, right? Or I saw deer and Edna. Right. And that's an issue. It's an issue.
Nathaniel, do you think the older, like the Victorian authors were accurate in what they saw?
I would suggest that there is a great percentage of them that were being honest with what they perceived, but without having the technological advancement enough to see through the archetype. And the reason that's an issue, and it's a major issue in the phenomenology, is, again, if all we have is that manifestation and not the pre-manifestation, then what we've been studying is the construct, not the actual intelligence that's creating it. And the problem is, and to go even deeper, is to date, most of the time, the only cases we're seeing these are on camera. And it's not just that, but this diversification mechanism is so present in the field that even Gary Nolan found it in ufology, right? Where we had the case study in France with the young boy that's in a car with his parents, and he's looking up through the sunroof, and he sees this structured craft, a massive structured craft hovering in the sky. He knows what he saw. Okay, put that aside. His mother pulls out a camera. Sure enough, takes a photograph of it. What she captures on camera is also a structured craft, but it looks completely different. Same direction, literally. It's right there, Mom. Same, different craft entirely. So then we look at this and say, no pun intended, we look at this and go, oh no. Because it's not that craft didn't exist. It's that it had created a construct of itself. And what he's witnessing is not at all what's actually present. Now we can go into another direction where it's like, okay, but what if what he saw was present too? What if there were, in fact, two objects, right? And so this gets into the confusion that we face when trying to interpret the diversification of the phenomenon. Which one am I to you? Which one do you want to write books about? Because it goes back to your question, Mark. If all we have are antiquated case studies, right, where I've heard it my whole life. My dear grandmother lived in a haunted house in Kentucky, and she swore up and down she kept seeing the same apparition. But what if she had a camera? Would she have captured something different? And which one of those are the true entities? And that's kind of where we're at. And it's a pathetic position, really.
So yeah. So going back to exact what Mark was saying, observation is only one real sense.
Absolutely.
There's there's seeing, there's touching, there's tasting. There's more than that, and then you get into the other senses that, like your third eye and some other problem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will tell you that I'm pretty much, I don't call them, CE5s, but what I do is I conduct and I use a protocol called active that I created, active intelligent encounters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based off of, because I think this is on your research, the results that you receive or get, or the experience
is
all based off of intention.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think, if I'm just trying to break some of the stuff that I remember what you were discussing, which was interesting. You're seeing the UFO.
Right.
Is it really the UFO you're seeing, or is it a projection from something else that you're unaware of, or a different dimension?
Yeah.
Right? By that? Even though 130 people and the chief of police saw it in the town of Crawford, but whatever, we brought it in. And it's massive. It's amazing. And you're so, ooh. But remember the Wizard of Oz, folks.
Yeah.
Here's, right?
It's what we're looking at now, and this is just the current research, is the idea of the observer effect. Now, we're using that loosely because the way the observer effect works is anything, even if something's measured, it changes the way that thing is operating. By collapsing everything. So my point, though, is because we're lacking certain linguistic framework or vocabulary, we have to lean on certain concepts. But the phenomenon has been creating conscious connections with us, I should say, a conscious connection. And in doing so, we have data that backs up the fact that they're doing this. It's almost like the hijack consciousness. Getting back to Stephen Barry, they had this individual that they were performing CE5 protocols. And we knew throughout all the literature, in virtually every paranormal field, you have these cases where the witness or experiencer says, I fell into a deep sleep, or I fell into a trance, I went into a stupor. Doesn't really matter what it is. And what happened was Stephen Barry placed a brainwave monitoring unit on the head of this experiencer, had them go out into a location and say, okay, go through your CE5 protocols. And here they are. She's out there, right, at this undisclosed location at nighttime. And she goes through her protocols successfully. And they all witness this light phenomenon above the head. And she is, right, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing. And she's hyper-focused on the light phenomena. They're hyper-focused on her brainwaves. And within 10 to 15 seconds of consciously connecting to the phenomenon, it had induced her into theta brainwave activity, lowered her fight or flight mechanism. And now she's almost like, I don't know what to do with this. It's so incredible. But she's not realizing that it's lowering her defenses to where now it's got a hold of her. And so what we're looking at least in my research, is a theory. It comes from neuroparasitology, where when you get in contact with a parasite, it begins to affect your neurology to the point where it hijacks you.
Yep.
It removes all fear. And the whole point of it is so that I can inhabit you or something else, and then you go home with it. And we would call that the hitchhiker effect. And so my point, though, is that there is this hijacking of consciousness the phenomenon does, to where it seeks to be seen. Now, one theory I would propose of even the CE5 mechanism is that when it seeks to be seen, it'll tell you where to look. And then once you start looking at it, it starts to create that conscious connection and the phenomena manifests. But I do believe that it is weaponizing, and again, the observer effect. Now, if you look at various cases, and even Dr. Carl Turner had this case study where these people are on the highway and they all see this craft, but none of them could agree on what they saw.
Yep. Yep.
Right, Bryan? And we're like freaking
100%.
out. And I'm going, what is going on? And so at least the leading theory we have now is the reason it was one thing was present, but it was being perceived differently through everyone else's eyes is because all of them were observing it. And all of them were collapsing the same entity into different interfaces. So that's just a theory. And, you know,
it's really interesting. And there have been numerous experiences where I've actually been part of.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed where I've witnessed up close and afar. So you're out at something like, you know, kids soccer or whatever it is at the Jersey Shore, and someone goes, "Do you see that UFO?"
Yeah.
And some people, a lot of them just don't, and other odd people are pointing at the same thing. So why is it? And I'm seeing it. I can see it now. Is it because we are vibrating at a higher resonance of frequency, and we're straddling different? We're using more of what we were built around, our brain, and you were more in touch with certain things. Let's say, versus people that are this projection is not getting to them because they're calcified. As an example,
Yeah.
And then when you see the thing, like, well, this is why we separate people and we go, what did you see?
Right. Before they even get to be the ability to talk to each other. Yeah. Like, what did you see?
And some people are just, and I've noticed this primarily with extraterrestrial UFO based things. Some people, you could be in a field like giant stadium and open air, and 50,000 people could be there, but only like 5 people are actually seeing a craft that's hovering above the stadium.
I'm going to suggest something that will be controversial.
Drugs, right? No.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there we go. Terrence McKenna's here, everybody. Mr. McKenna, is that you?
DMT, that's
there we go, buddy. Yeah, reality is not only stranger than you can imagine. Yeah. So the whole deal, though, and this is one of the theories that we're working on, and again, it's just a theory. But when we have instances where only 5 of the 10 people see it, and none of the 5 can agree on what they saw. Or then all 10 people see it, and all 10 can agree on what they've seen. I'll give you a third case, a third scenario that's equally as problematic. It's one of Carla Turner's cases where a lady is at a cookout. She's there. She's got a block party or something going on, and they're hanging out. They've got the fire or the grill going. They're cooking hot dogs, all that, cornhole. And out of nowhere, a craft materializes above one of the houses across the street. One of the neighbors is there. She's like, "That's my house." That's crazy. I can't believe that. Well, this individual was telling Dr. Turner this case study, and it blew Dr. Turner's mind. It's a crazy, crazy case. She's like, she's like, "Listen, Dr. Turner, we're observing this craft hovering above my house or whatever." She's like, and we're looking at this thing, and for 45 minutes, we're observing it. She's like, and I remember getting out my binoculars, and I'm seeing it through the binoculars. I'm passing it down the line of other neighbors. They're watching it. She goes, "I even got my telescope out. We're observing this object for 45 minutes through my telescope." Dr. Turner goes, "Well, okay. I mean, outside of it just being, a craft you witnessed, what else happened? Like, what's the conversation? What's going on?" She said, "Dr. Turner, I don't own binoculars." She goes, "And my telescope never left the box it was shipped in, still ticked up." So even that's the third problem. Even when everybody, there are cases where even when everybody agrees on what they're seeing, the phenomenon can also hijack that entire encounter to where these people are thinking they're literally, okay, guys, let me say this. It's literally a watch to them, right? It's in their hands. They can smell the plastic of the binoculars, right? But they never existed. The entire encounter was complete and utter manipulation.
So do you think that, I want to phrase this the right way, and I don't want to, do you think they're preying on whatever this is, the archetype is?
Yeah.
Does it have the ability to read your consciousness
100%.
and then say, okay, we want to get to this one for whatever reason. We don't know yet because we don't have an interaction with the archetype.
Yeah.
And they're preying on like, well, they could, if they're able to do this, they're able to download you, analyze you in a split second. They know exactly what to target, and they're going to go, oh, she remembers smelling plastic, hot plastic, when she used to go to the shore with her grandmother. We're going to throw that in there, right? And then we're going to say that smell of wet dog because that's prevalent in her world. And we're going to let her have this experience. But what is, have we determined what the experience, what is the purpose for this archetype to do that?
Something else is going on and happening to them. I'm convinced of it. My model of phenomenon is like Dark City. Okay. Dark City, you have these entities that were creating physiological constructs to where our species we're walking around thinking, okay, that exists, this exists, and we build our entire worldview on smoke and mirrors and on constructs. But at the end of the day, again, what they'll do, these entities, is they'll put us to sleep, they'll give us a false memory. And so what we end up doing is we are convinced of form, not understanding the function behind it. And I think that's why it diversifies itself, right? Because it's this, it's that. So we put labels on it, not realizing that as well. That could be a mask because that is it forming itself. So now what my colleague and I have been doing here lately is looking at the function. So getting back to this concept, it's a brilliant question because a lot of people overlook this aspect of it, where yes, it can read minds. Yes, it can go through the archive of information, your life experiences. And I've had people try to refute that, but they don't know what they're all right.
I know what you're saying.
All right. Sorry, guys. I kind of went Doc Holiday there, right? Oh, Ike, are we cross? So, anyways, big Tombstone fan. I know, Ike. Let's have a spelling contest.
That's a great movie. Really great movie.
Yeah.
So they don't realize that they're. See, but that's the whole thing is like, I know you talk about this, then you talk about there's also sigils. We can get a little bit into that, but it's like I'm trying to wrap my mind around because I think there are archetypes like this that do this, what you're discussing. And one of them throughout history, if you start reading about it, are the jinn.
Yeah.
Jinn were running, the earth was theirs for the most part. Then God creates heaven and earth according to script, whatever it is. And then he's like, you're done. I made humans, F off. And they hated us ever since in that line of culture.
Right.
And the jinn have been linked to exorcisms, satanic activity, demonic activity, possession, sightings of Bigfoot, sightings of UFO, like everything. And the reason why they do what they do is they're trying to just get rid of the humans. So this is what we've known. This has been written in a lot of documentation throughout however thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, whatever. So we know about that. I've had personal interactions with a Bigfoot. I'm like literally physically leaving. But what is this archetype that we're talking about right now?
Mhm.
Why have we figured out the why? Like, why
To
are you
be,
bothering your sister?
yeah,
What's
yeah.
going on here?
Okay, so there are times, and again, I'm gonna say this too. Just because we know what it doesn't necessarily mean we know what it is. We have cases within our own federal government where researchers were trying to contact extraterrestrials and were possessed by them. So much so, the Vatican had to send exorcists to Air Force bases and perform exorcisms. So there, the phenomenology kind of contradicts itself. That's why I'm over here looking at this and saying, okay, jinn are constructed of smokeless fire, but they're also allegedly able to procreate. How? It's very strange, right? So then we
Yeah.
go. So the issue again, and this is something I've had to deal with, is I've had Muslim scholars email me, and it's a fascinating conversation, right? Where it's like, okay, well, we know they're jinn because of A, B, and C. No, we know they could do A, B, and C, but does that really make them that?
The gin. Yeah.
Right. Right. So what we're dealing with again are these labels that, and I'm just to be very blunt, that if I can prove it's jinn, if I can prove it's a demon, then I'm somehow proving the validity of my other entire worldview. Right?
Right.
Yeah, right. So it's connected. And that's why when I'm so, okay, let me refute some of these points. It's not, you know what, you may be right, Nathaniel. I've never even thought about that. No, it's you're questioning my religion. And
Yeah,
I'm like, isn't that weird? It's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to be, and not you and I, but of course, I've been very careful
And you're not questioning the religion, but they
No.
don't have an answer for you, so they go on the offensive.
of course, right. Because again,
Oh,
I'm
you're
making
questioning my religion beliefs. This is what
Right. I'm making
are you a Muslim? No, I am not. But have you stopped for a minute, right, and looked at
It's
it?
frustrating.
And
Right.
no, it's very frustrating. And it's Nathaniel. I think it's not only frustrating for you as a researcher and investigator,
Mhm.
by which Barry, great guy. I haven't talked to him in forever, but great guy. Steve is a great guy.
Absolutely,
I mean, you guys are really, I used to have conversations, a little bit, little messages, and
Mhm.
as we get older, we kind of like life
Oh,
goes
man.
on.
I
Get
get
certain
it.
things, but some of the best. But it's like, in this research, you're pointing out certain things. Like, basically,
Mhm.
you should look at X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
before you say, it's just the gin. I've seen things. This is where it gets, and this is where I'm leading to.
Mhm.
And let's use the gin as an example. If
Okay.
you have somebody who's been studying the parapsychology,
Mhm.
like my good friend Al and we used to investigate in New York all the time. His
Mhm.
brother was one of the first, if not the first person in the United States to graduate with a degree in parapsychology.
Okay. Amazing.
And he was very knowledgeable. He's not he's not a groupie. Like, there's some
Mhm.
groupies in this field. There's a
A
lot of groupies.
lot, actually. Yeah, man, a lot. It's
Kind of like
oh,
K-pop, but with ghosts, or whatever it is.
yeah, yeah.
But I've been in situations where something takes place and people that are knowledgeable, like, they do a lot of the research. Oh, this is this. But others, like, what are you talking about? It's clearly the jinn. I'm a Muslim. I know it. And the same archetype is there, but it provides, this is the same thing about seeing different UFOs. What do you see? Red. I saw green,
Oh,
whatever.
man.
And then it gets really crazy because now it's whatever it is preying on both of you.
Oh, yeah. Let me bring this home for you, buddy. Whatever these intelligences are, they've had the ability not just to inspire religions, but to hijack them in certain interface events.
Well, yeah.
Case in point, Nathaniel. All right. Here
Keep
we go.
going.
There we go. In 776 AD, during the siege of Sigisburg Castle, Charlemagne's Frankish forces were defending the castle against besieging Saxons. According to the 12th century manuscript Annales Laricenses, Witnesses saw two large, flaming reddish shields suddenly appear in the sky, hovering directly above the church. The Saxons interpreted this as a divine sign that the Franks and Christians were being protected by God, which terrified them and caused them to lift the siege and flee. My colleague Steve has another account of this, right? Where one of these ships or craft, I don't know what they are, projected a light beam through the cross that was on top of the steeple onto the ground. And they looked at it and saw an illuminated cross and believed that these people were being divinely orchestrated and guided, inspired.
Oh, yeah.
So when people, here's the problem, and people don't want to have this discussion because, again, it's too difficult. Either they don't have the head knowledge or they don't even have the propensity to entertain this. But when I come out and I say, okay, we got a problem because not only does religion play a role in this, religion in many cases is being hijacked by the phenomenon.
It's really interesting because the phenomenon is hijacking right back. Initially, they're on a mission. So the phenomenon, let's call it the origin. Whatever it is, and what its purpose is. Part of that it seems to be doing whatever it needs to do to get to what they need or acquire the resources. And people that are individuals that are experiencing it or seeing it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's literally dictating what they want it to do. Kind of like what the premise behind Project Bluebeam, by the way, everybody, where you're going to get projections, technology that we're not familiar with, but 8D, 9D, 13D, that we're not even here. I'm just going to break it out. Nathaniel, J. Gillis, Mark, and myself, we're not even here on this show. You're not even watching this. This is an actual dream you're having.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm saying? And people are unaware of it. And my personal opinion is unless you can see, touch, taste, and experiment a little bit with it. Like, well, if I do this, what are you going to do to me? Type of thing. But keep going with where you.
So one thing that is now being proven is that we live in somewhat of a construct. During the skull experiment in the 90s, let me say this. I had an understanding, I thought I did, of what the skull experiment consisted of. Okay, it wasn't until I lectured in the UK that I sat down with some of these people, even Steve and them, and I was like, okay, like, what do you actually know about this? And the story that they know in the UK is completely different, right? Then it's actually darker and deeper than what we were told here in the States, even what's in the book with Robin Foy's book, even what's in the documentary. But they told me, they said, okay, no, they said at one time the phenomenon had manifested a newspaper. Here it is. They go discover it. And they're like, what is this? They could touch it and everything. The newspaper had been presented, I think it was in the late, printed in the late 1800s. And they went and had it looked at a museum, and the experts said, yeah, whatever this is looks to have just been printed. Like whoever made this just made it. And we don't even have the ability to make this right now. So this is legit. We just don't know where it came from. And it is the most well-preserved, right, specimen we have. So they put it in a controlled environment like they do at a museum, right? The temperature's perfect, everything's fine. Well, for every day it was in this local environment, it aged 55 days. Oh my God, Brian. And so they're going back to it, and it's returning back to its original state. So what that means, though, is that the phenomenon, and this is what we're dealing with the construct, is that it can materialize anything, just boop. And it's not just a construct. It's literally something you could feel, you can measure, you can quantify. It's scientifically verified. It's real. The only problem is it doesn't appear to be from this dimension. Now, take that, put that aside. We go, that's in parapsychology. It's fascinating. Parapsychology is amazing, by the way. Then you go into Stephen Barry's case studies, where they were encountering these apports. The phenomenon just materialized objects out of nowhere. One of Steve's cases is where a husband and wife are arguing, and the husband's looking down and he sees this moving figurine, and he's like, that's kind of ticking me off. I'm already angry. Plus, it's her, so I'm really going to make her mad. He takes it, throws it out the front door, shattered to a million pieces. Just take that, wifey. Comes back in the living room. It's right back on the table. What is going on? Good, because this is fascinating stuff.
No, sidebar to this. This
Yep.
just happened to a friend of mine.
Right.
She purchased 2 glasses, like fake glasses from the dollar store, plastic.
Yeah.
And they were witchy glasses. She's a witch. This is what she does. And she's a chaos witch. She's wonderful. And she just rolled this video not that long ago. And she knows that one was sitting on the countertop of her kitchen, and cat, she had, cats just push shit off, like it broke. So she was upset. She picked it up and she went out. And then the next day when she went, back, to open the closet to get the last glass, take whatever the drink was, there are now 3 of them there. No, she has 4 of them. And what's really interesting is the glass that was broken or shattered is there, but it also has a similar marking as if it's gone through the process, but it's whole. How? And she's like, I only bought 2. I have the money to buy whatever, and now I have 4. This is a problem. But here's I'm going to throw this at you. Is it because there is something, again, this entity, this archetype doing this, or is it because as we've gone throughout life, and we're messing around with shit we should not, now timelines are kind of merging with timelines, and everything's weaving itself, and sometimes some stuff from 3 timelines is now finding its way into our time or our construct. So if we're a construct, because I study physics, and I'll be talking physics with 2 physicists tomorrow, Weepin Yu and Steven Sanchez, who and so if we're a construct and we are living in a construct, if there's one, you can assume there's several more, if not a billion. So what's to say that at one point our construct, they can't overlap and things from one can go into the other and vice versa?
That's a great point. So I'm leaning towards kind of all of the above, if you will. And I hate to be that kind of
no. That's actually fair because it's unknown.
So, but because there's what I'm going to tell you, it kind of touches on all of these models. So what Stephen Barry realizes, okay, these are just materializing, and they're real. They're real to the touch, and they blend into reality, right? They blend into the construct. We would have no idea that they were from another location. Well, what they started doing is they were going into other cases and families, like the same thing with your friend, right? It's like, well, we bought 1, there's like 2 here. We don't know where this came from. Even some other cases is even equally as fascinating, where they didn't even buy the object. It just showed up. Out of nowhere.
That's happened to a couple other people, but which is interesting.
And so here's the issue, okay? Not the issue, but it's funny. The phenomenon doesn't waste anything. Even poltergeist activity, it charges up the environment, and then some of the new data suggests it just pulls it in, empowers itself, then it goes and targets somebody else. So it's like this mechanism, this program in a way. But dealing with the ports, Barry and Steve had one case where it was actually Steve, where he's drinking a cup of coffee, right? He's at this house investigating, he puts it down, it's gone. Where'd it go? And so the family had purchased 3 other coffee mugs with that other mug. And so there was that kind of like a Costco deal or something like that.
Yeah.
And so for months it's gone, it's gone. They can't find it. All of a sudden they locate it, and it's right in the location where it went missing. The problem is, where'd it go? It just materialized again. So Steve got kind of, right, he's a fascinating guy. So he gets tired of this stuff. He's like, okay, you keep screwing with me here. What's actually going on? Because if we know anything about the phenomenon, it doesn't waste any energy. Everything it does is for a reason. And so then he takes that mug, takes the other 3, sends it off to a laboratory. They test them. It's called bench testing. They test the mug that was gone and then returned against the other 3 that it was purchased with. Same everything. They're the same. There was an isotopic difference between the coffee mug that materialized in the other 3. What?
Yeah.
What are we dealing with? And so the question was postulated. Did it change, right? The isotopic ratio between dematerialized or rematerialized. That's a theory. Here's another one. That's not the same coffee mug, Brian.
No, it's not.
It's not the same coffee mug.
Yeah.
And so then again, they evolved in their research methods. And sooner or later, they come across another case study. The phenomenon materializes an object out of thin air in a house, and it's one of one. There's nothing else to bench test it against, right? So just as Steve and Barry are evolving in their understanding of the phenomenon, so also is the phenomenon evolving according to their awareness of it. So it's like this cat and mouse game. My point is, what they did is they realized, okay, we're going to take that apart, we're going to remove it from the local home. Okay, we're just going to take it. And they take it, they place it in a storage space. 24 hours goes by, they get a phone call from the family. You guys are the most amazing researchers we've had at the house. Why? You've done something nobody else has been able to do. You've gotten rid of the phenomenon. And Steve and Barry are like, no, we haven't. Let's prove it. So they go back into the house with the family's permission. Okay, they take the port, place it right where they found it in the home, go to dinner. You know, that was a wild case study, wasn't it? You know, what's going to happen now? Phone call comes back. We don't know what's happened. They've returned. The orbs, shot, all that. And what they determined was, oh my God. The phenomenon was materializing objects from their dimension into our dimension so that it would anchor itself to them, anchor itself into that object. And now that object is in its local environment, it has more of an ability to materialize. Take that aside. All right. That did not originate in parapsychology. What we're seeing is that what one field has a question over or for, another field has the answer. When we first heard of that particular mechanism within demonology in your most malevolent possession cases, think Malachi Martin, think Gabriel Lamorte, think Adam Bly, where they would have these demoniacs who, at the worst possible time, where the phenomenon is being almost vacating that person, the demoniac will start to regurgitate apports, objects they never physically ingested. They begin to spit them out of their bodily cavity. And just as Barry and Steve said, we're going to place these in a safe space, the priest, for the same reason, said, we're going to place them in a sacred space. Same reason, same methodology, 2 different fields, allegedly.
And 2 different belief systems.
Exactly right.
Which is important. So when you were talking about this in the isotope changes, something I've used numerous times before for people is, you may not be seeing a UFO. You're seeing the interpretation of a UFO. And that's very important, the concept. Yeah. Because sometimes, like, if we're going to get a little bit in the good and bad, or good and evil, because that's what this world seems to be made up of. Mm-hmm. There seems to be, in the universe, there's rules and regulations that come forward. Yeah. In everything, when somebody good does something, God or Jesus or whomever, one of the things they have, it's always the case. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take Nathaniel, I want you here because you need to witness this. Mm-hmm. Then you have testimony and you share the witness to whatever. When evil does something, they tell you before they're doing it, and if you do not balk at it at all, then it's consent. So I'm trying to figure out here, is this what's the purpose of where your research is? Like, is there an evil component to it? Is there a good component to it? Good versus evil? Or is it they're trying to train you into how to go from 3 dimensions into 4 dimensions to 5 dimensions? And it's like the precursor, it's like driver's ed before you get your license.
Yeah, I don't, I'll just be very blunt here. I do not buy that interpretation. You do not have to assault me to raise my consciousness. You don't have to assault me and then remove my memory of the assault,
right,
and then create synchronicities to back up the false memory you gave me. Think about how malevolent that is. Let me structure this for everybody. It wasn't just that case study took place. Like, it wasn't just that the neighbors thought they saw a craft. It wasn't just, okay, I literally believe I felt the binoculars. I smelled the glass. I smelled the plastic. By the way, that was a false memory. But even after that, the phenomenon, like a program, had installed synchronicities, had thought far enough ahead through the manipulation to create synchronicities in the life of the experiencer to validate an experience that never even happened. And so there is this layer of deception in and I've been, okay, well, yeah, they're trying to raise our consciousness. Well, how do you measure consciousness? What is it? What is this? Okay, are we talking about awareness? Okay, that's an interesting conversation. But I think that what we're being fed are lines of deception over and over and over again, to the point that we keep looking left and we keep looking at the opposite direction. Now let's get back to this idea of trying to take credit for divine interventions. Now, just because we do have a malevolent force or some intelligence that appears as a craft and then wants to appear to us as divine, doesn't exclude the presence of the divine. It just proves that there's something that wants to appear as such. And so it's highly possible, if you will, that what we're looking at are competing timelines. Or I'm going to create history, right? And in creating history, I'm going to mess up with this other timeline that should actually be taking place. But that's just a theory, as everything else is.
I mean, that's quantum entanglement right there. And it's really hard to it takes a lot of brain power. We had Ron Yacovetti on here with Lourdes Gonzalez, and they do the TDSE trans seance type of thing. It's basically EVPs, but it's more than that. Mm-hmm. And he's dealing with philosophers, because it's not just like what you think about in paranormal. You're watching like Ghost Hunters or some other program. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of philosophy in this, in what they're doing. And when I hear when you speak, it's like this is. I'm going to bring this back up. Mark's going to kill me. This is Plato, the allegory of the cave.
Oh yeah.
So you understand that. So, and if they don't understand, basically it's cave. They see these shadows on the wall. They don't realize that if they just turn around and go outside and see the light, whatever, there's a whole world out there.
Right.
So it's just how it's perceived in that. And
yeah.
But what's the purpose? Why were the people put into the cave? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or were they born?
Well,
who is the archetype of the cave person, and why were they put there? Why were they born there, or were they just transferred there? And who is the person that comes into the, is it real or is it fake? And says, dude, there's a whole village out there. Just come with me. No, we're not going to go.
Well,
type of stuff.
It's a brilliant analogy, and I've always loved that analogy, by the way, Plato's cave. Let me interpret it this way. When you look at the diversification method of the phenomenon, that's what it's doing. When you have an intelligence that projects a construct that we perceive and we interact with, okay, then what's happening is, and this is just go with me, that essentially the phenomenon is both the fire and the shadow.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
It's
I'm
both
with
the
you on
fire and the shadow. And it's dancing and what, again, mythologizing the shadow, failing to turn around and say, well, who's projecting that? Now we got to get back into, I mean, again, it covers all fields of research, by the way, not even paranormal, like sociology,
really
all that.
does, and most,
right.
they don't realize how important this. Just read Plato's Allegory of the Cave. There's so much into this.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, Mark.
Okay. Hey, Nathaniel, you were talking about the flaming shields over the Charlemagne's castle.
Mm-hmm.
You also have the cross-like possible UFO hovering over the Milburn Bridge. Okay, was it maybe about 300 or so years separate the two events? You do have multiple eyewitnesses at both of those events. They did raise consciousness where people came to the conclusion, God must be on our side. Mm-hmm. So what are we to conclude from these types of documented events? It seems like they really are raising consciousness that does change the direction of humanity, probably for the better.
Well, I would say that coming to a certain conclusion is different than raising consciousness. What we're looking at literally is an intelligence that says, go murder people. Not to get you guys demonetized, because God wants you to. It would be like...
We're not monetized. And
it'd be like Joan of Arc. It'd be like Joan of Arc, right? An angel of the Lord told me I gotta go. Absolutely. And people could come away and say, man, because they concluded it was from God that their consciousness is raised. It's, in my mind, it's more like somebody really wanted a lot of death and they were willing to play the role of the divine to get it. Now, we could say that person on the horse with the sword, their consciousness was raised. Then we have to go back to all the victims that suffered slaughter. And that is a conversation, my dear friends, that gets very dark very quickly. Because even we have Alexander the Great, who could not conquer a city. In his diary, he said, I saw flying shields. Boom. Now I had access to the city. Why? Because, again, it's almost as if we're witnessing. And the Vatican knows this, by the way. We can get into that whole conversation in a second. The Vatican knows. As a matter of fact, they even came out with I guess, an edited version of ways to tell, I guess, if an apparition is actually of God. Okay, and they go, okay, so in other words, okay, if you see an apparition, you have to go through these different points, conclusion, to confirm whether or not it's actually divine. You're not going to create that method unless you're preparing yourself for the emergence of apparitions that are not, in fact, from God. And so what they're doing is kind of toying with this idea of saying, okay, yeah, not everything that appears to be divine is. Guys, even Fatima, and I know it's even Jacques Vallée has mentioned this in times past. 3 children see a lady brighter than the sun, promising miracles. The October miracle of the sun, witnessed by 70,000, involved a spinning, plunging disc, described by some as a metallic object. Okay, Vallée and others describe this. Now, again, here's the question: which came first? Was the apparition literally, because some people saw a disc, others saw people saw the apparition, was one the projection of the other? Just like the shields projecting a beam through the steeple, just like the entity that goes to Joan of Arc. And again, when people say we're projecting our religious worldview on it, time out. Forget my worldview. What we're looking at in the phenomenology is an intelligence that actively uses religion to accomplish their means. And then we go home thinking, man, at least throughout history, right? A lot of bad things took place. Why? And that's just where I'm at.
Yeah. So the problem I have is, and I'm not doing this to upset you,
Yeah.
if it does, or anybody else, humanity has its own vested interest, and that vested interest is control.
100%.
And I do not trust a lot, if most, anything that comes from the Vatican. So with them saying what they said, this is how we determine if it's a divine entity. It kind of breaks, going back to how we started the show.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't really know, how do we know? They could be putting that into the archetype, whatever, puts it into their brain, like, no, you're in control. You're the one that dictates if it fits this, because we want you to dictate, but they don't know that we want you to do it, so that you're doing it.
I'm on board with you, brother. I am not Catholic at all. I'm not Catholic at all. So I would agree with you. It's and the problem is, again, and there's a whole nother side of this. I mean, there's an occult connection that our government's toying with right now, and the phenomenon is using that seems to completely transcend all of the theories, right? Where I think I know what I know, or I think I'm being lied to. Maybe I'm not.
Right.
There again, and so that's where we get into Jack Parsons, Marjorie Cameron, Crowley, Hubbard, and we see that not only has religion almost been hijacked in a sense, or created, if you will, by some of the phenomena. I don't know, but that there is some kind of an occult connection. And it complements. I've been talking a long time. It complicates the issue even further, Brian. I got it out, buddy. I got it out.
You can get Nathaniel's new dictionary words.
Yeah. Compliments. Compliment. Let me give you a compliment.
Yeah, let me give you a compliment. But I understand what I understand what you're saying. So just to move a little bit, we're kind of like, I know we just started, but we're getting we're moving in time, and I'm going to say it right now. I'd love to have you back on, because I don't think we're going to even get close to it. We're just basically doing baselines here. We do have some questions there, and I want to get to one of them, because at one point, moving into it, you made a reference to sigils.
Yeah.
So when people go and get abducted, they have these 3 dots on their arm. And I think you alluded, and I'm just going to, because I don't recall it, pardon me, that these could be sigils from something. It's not necessarily extraterrestrial as much as it's a sigil. And you're associating that sigil with something. How do sigils actually play a role in what you are researching in this phenomenon?
Yeah, I didn't know it played any role at first.
Okay.
I'm going to go. So okay, watch this. So the case is that we're finding sigils on experiencers 99.9% of the time. They've never been physically taken. One of the case study, it's like they thought they were taken, but it was like an out of body experience. When they get back into their body, you have these things start manifesting. I'm going to break this down, because I don't know how much time we have, but let me say this. So
we roughly have
40 minutes.
Okay. About
40 minutes. We're going to go a little bit earlier, because I'm trying to keep these shows to 2 hours so I don't lose my audience. They're like, well, this is too long,
So in the 1970s, the USSR, they were performing a lot of parapsychological experiments, and many of which our own government had kind of hijacked and created a psychotronic weapon, whatever. That's a whole other show. But in their experiments, and I got this paper, it was declassified by the CIA in 2002. And in it, the language is fascinating, where their parapsychologists believe that our brain was like a liquid crystal in a way, or quote unquote, like later on it's interpreted as a computer. And what they were doing is they were taking a blank piece of paper, placing it inside an envelope, taping the envelope to the forehead of a psychic medium or a practitioner. Okay. They put them in a controlled environment. They said, all right, we're going to do some consciousness experiments. We want you to project your consciousness by virtue of intention onto this envelope or the paper inside the envelope, that is. Project your consciousness onto the paper inside the envelope. And they said, okay, and not only that, but with your intention and focused consciousness, we want you to print or carve, transplant symbols from left to right, about 6 or 7 of them. We're going to give you each symbol we want you to transplant. And so they went through a series of experiments until finally it actually occurred. Then the next step, and this is a key data point, even within some of the abduction literature, is they took that envelope and placed it 25 feet away from the individual. Go through the same thing, right? So they did a series of these experiments, which is a secondary step to the original. And out of nowhere, in one of these experiments, what's called in the paper a biofield manifested. Think of it as a translucent cloud of energy. This trips me out, guys. Okay, it's hovering. And they're watching this as it's moving from the person that's projecting consciousness. From them slowly over all the way to the envelope. It descends down upon the envelope. They're like, okay, boys, turn the lights on. Let's see if this actually works.
Right.
It did. According to this paper, according to this experiment. Now, I didn't know that. But I was working on a case study that was one of the late Dr. Carla Turner's. This individual, his mother had been taken. The entire family had experienced paranormal phenomena. And what happened was they all lived in the Ozarks. Dr. Turner lived in the Ozarks. And so they would kind of go to each other's houses like once a week to talk about their experiences and phenomena. He's like, so, we were good friends with Dr. Turner. He's like, but one night, he's like, my mother's sleeping on the couch in the living room. And again, I had no access to this paper at the time. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Well, he's like, my mom's sleeping on the couch. Out of nowhere, from the hallway to the right of our vision, we see this translucent cloud of energy just materialize. He said it slowly moves through the hallway into the living room and then descends down upon my mother who's sleeping. He's like 45 minutes later, she wakes up terrified, swearing that she had been abducted by an alien in gray. I was abducted. They took me on a ship, went through the whole, checked all the boxes of an abduction. He said, but we try to tell her, Mom, we love you, we believe you and everything, but you never physically left. We just saw some kind of cloud slowly descend over your body and then just disappeared into you. He said that was when my mother started to feel burning sensations on her body. And he said that she had become covered from head to toe with sigils. If you take two models, two cases, and you align them, then what we have, and I'm just going to throw this out there, are a species of practitioners who have been using what's called vaulting. It's a form that Franz Bowden created in his occult philosophy. It was especially used in Hermeticism. To where again, think about the parapsychological experiment. I can, through intention and projected consciousness, collapse myself into a vault. the way they described the vault was a ball of light, Bryan. And the second initiatory step was using that collapsed consciousness to project an alter ego of the practitioner. Franz Bowden called it vaulting into a form. Now, if you take those three concepts and you look at them and say, okay, is it possible that what this person, right, Bryan, what they experienced was a ritual or someone projecting their consciousness? And the problem again is because this species has learned that we favor form over function. That individual would go around saying I was abducted by an alien. Meanwhile, the function was completely different. The function, the intention, that cloud of energy held within it, it was actually the whole purpose. And so that's what we're dealing with. Not so much, okay, they were doing experiments to come out with sigils. So there's kind of a discrepancy, but you're right. Essentially.
Is that something like an egregore? Like
Yes.
thinking something into
Existence.
Absolutely.
existence?
Absolutely. Now, this gets into some deep, dark research that our government was doing. But this idea, of vaulting into a form, it turned into people like Joe McMoneagle, right, and Lou Elizondo and Eminence saying, by the way, this is all Project Stargate for those who have an ear here, but it goes even deeper because they're not telling us what they're doing, right? They're not telling us they're vaulting. They're not even telling us they got it from Franz Bowden and Israel Regardie. They're just saying, oh, by the way, we're going to repackage it. I'm astrally projecting, or I'm remote viewing, whatever, all that. My point, though, is Lou Elizondo in his book Imminent, he talks about him and McMoneagle doing that. Now, here's a big mind blower here for everybody watching. The idea is that the collapsing yourself into the ball of light and then projecting something else, that you are projecting an alter ego of yourself, right? But not just that, but you can actually perceive what that alter ego is perceiving. And so essentially the witness, and this has been documented, will see your alter ego, not realizing that that is actually a physiological construct created by an initiate. Take that, set it aside. That's what Joe McMoneagle was saying without saying. We projected ourselves into the jail cell of the terrorist. In between who I am and what I look like and what that person envisioned, right? Witnessed. Two separate people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Weird. It's weird.
It's very weird. One of your biggest fans, he's a great guy, Woo. He had the question, has Nathaniel been able to find the origins of the sigil left behind on people like a group linked to each individual sigil? And I think this is I think you've kind of just answered some of this on it. I'm a remote viewer. I also have other abilities that I've tapped into. And I didn't live, I didn't want to say I had abilities at any point in time. I don't want to be a Miss Cleo from the back in the day.
Tell me, child, right?
Call me now.
Yeah.
Nathaniel. But, and I know Joe McMoneagle. I always confuse his name.
I always mess it up, dude.
With the character in Harry Potter. But it's very interesting because someone told me to do something recently, and I have not talked about this. I don't think. I'm going to I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble. I don't care. But they told me to look into something called Blue Kona. And, if you've been following the UFO subject matter, Michelle and Wayne or whatever, it's a program. It's A-tip and whatever, and it's to monitor UFOs and extraterrestrials. But it was rejected. So, but it's also a coffee. It's pretty good coffee if you're drinking coffee, whatever. So I went in and I did what I do. He goes, do what you do. So I did. And in the process of doing the remote viewing, which you're unaware of, but we are projecting ourselves into locations.
Yeah.
I got caught. So much so, and I think the reason why I got caught is because the individual, the 3-star general, or whoever he was, there was 3 stars there. I've never seen any military insignias like that ever. He literally looked at me and then he said something, 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 and people started to react. He saw me. He said, like, basically, we got a breach.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the projection into the cell and
Crazy,
whatever,
ain't it?
you
Crazy.
can do it.
Yeah.
I've had this happens 99% of the time with the general public.
Mhm.
Astral projection or projecting yourself into something is done without you're not conscious of the actual action, which
Mhm.
begs to have us as human beings figure out, this is why your mind, and again, we're going to talk about vibrating and going higher.
Mhm.
And I think when you do that and you start using not only more portions of your brain and you tap into this, we'll go with archetype again. I think it's kind of like a training program to a degree to get us to be thinking not 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, but as many dimensions as we can for specific reasons that is truly theirs, not ours.
Mhm.
That's my 2 cents on that. I mean, this is just fascinating stuff. I just wanted, we had a couple of questions, and our friend Michelle, Psychic Medium 333, she said, question, many times ETs show themselves to me on a craft wearing white lab jackets. She is, could it be because I'm a nurse and they are attempting to make me feel comfortable and not afraid?
Very, 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 very possible. As I mentioned earlier on the show, I've received a lot of pushback from people that just don't know the case studies of this. Like, well, they can't read your mind. I'm like, okay, well, they read Paulino's mind, during that exorcism. They can't. So again, there's a gap between what people feel like they can do, right? And then like the actual case studies. So we have to kind of deal with that. It's like, oh, I'm glad you feel like that, but here's the data. I hate to be that guy. But yeah, that's very possible. But see, again, let me say this again. What Gary Nolan realizes is that in some cases, the phenomenon tailors the interface to your neurology.
Yeah.
Literally, it's like, okay. And let me say this too. When you're looking at parasitic mimicry, is some of this too. You have to go through stages of evolution for that to take place. Like, okay, let's go into biological entities. Let's say it's in the ocean or something. They have to co-evolve with you, at least in parasitism. They have to notice how you're evolving, your stages of evolution, what you believe in, all of that. And then they have to approach you putting on all of these characteristics. But
Right.
at least in parasitology, I mean, we're talking years. I mean, hundreds of years for that to take place. The phenomenon, when it's interfacing with you, could do that in 10 seconds.
Oh yeah, or faster. All of this, what your research and mirrors and you doing it with each other and this whole group. One of the things that I love about it is, and it's hard to if you don't have a brain for the concepts of physics and quantum physics. In general, this could be tougher. We have a lot of people like, Shelley Montgomery's having some, she's great. She's having some, it's questions and comments. And I keep the chat just so everybody knows, because I think this is just as much of an important component as our guest, Nathaniel, because it kind of works hand in hand and people, you can see it as it's popping up. But I'm going to have to, we have probably 15 minutes left, and I don't want to kill you on it. I want to promote something before I want to switch gears on you for 2 seconds if it's possible. So first of all, Nathaniel, you can find Nathaniel.
You can find me.
You can find him. I'm gonna throw up his stuff. So I think where are you? Share screen. Nathaniel has a wonderful Instagram page where a lot of his interviews are there. They're shorts. You really should subscribe. It's the Nathaniel Gillis. Okay. This is probably why I lost the J here. And not smoking it, Nathaniel. I wasn't smoking your J.
There's my J. What in
There's
the
my-
world, Brian? Give that back
Yeah.
to me.
You know, one of those. So there is Instagram for Nathaniel. Please, I mean, you got to go check it out. I'm subscribed. You know, like I'm connected. I'm following him. He's fantastic stuff you're posting on there, by the way.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
And then I also want to share with you, Nathaniel. I don't know how much you use it. Well, I think you're gearing towards more something else in a second. But we have the Instagram. We also have YouTube.
Yeah.
And this is his YouTube page, wearing the hat. And the last thing that's there is the Symposia. And that's where I wanted to throw that in there so the kids in the audience, and we're all kids because we're only as good as how old we are. What the heck is your Symposia?
Man,
and I'm going to go to the web address right now. I just have it at the About section. So people can have it up, but here's Symposia.
So
and this is new, right?
Yeah, it is new, and I'm also. So I'll go through this real quick. So I've done like hundreds of shows, hundreds of interviews, and lectures, and all that. And it got to a point where people are like, "Okay, we want to see your work at one location, you know, like one spot."
Right.
And there are things like that I can't really discuss on shows because I don't want to. People are afraid of the D word. It's not demons or demonic. They're afraid of being demonetized, and I get it. And I don't want to be the guy that does that, right? Like, oh, I cover a subject that YouTube didn't like or something. But anyways, now what I've created is Symposia for people who want to support my research and follow my work closer. That's just a way you guys can find all of my stuff at one place, and I can actually talk about what I want to talk about freely. And I'm also my colleague and I have a weekly show called NHI Discussions, where we just put out videos of our conversations. That's on Steve Maris' channel, which you guys can go there if you want. But man, it's been an absolute honor, man. We're right. You're right. We didn't cover a lot, but it's been awesome.
I mean, like I have the same problem we're having right here.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful because I love when this shit happens. You have so much information, and it's a very complex concept.
Mm-hmm.
And research and study, and and you kind of, it would be like if this was, I'm going to use this as a college level. This was a university level class.
Yeah.
You would need to, this would be a major, and you would have to take at least 6 different classes, some of them 3-hour classes, which really sucked. They always gave them like either super early in the morning with a TA, a teaching assistant. That was Asian, Japanese. Don't you talk like this? And like what? Whatever. Or it'd be like really late at night for that that instance. So one of the things that do you know anything about Chris Bledsoe?
Of course I do.
Okay, I just
when I want to.
Some people are, whatever. So just for those people that don't know, Chris Bledsoe in 2012, he claimed to be abducted, and then he met a mysterious entity called the Lady, and revealed that there's a hidden chamber beneath the Sphinx.
Mm-hmm.
It goes longer, and she said when the jewel appears above the Sphinx head or whatever it is, something to that effect, it will signal the following: there has to be a war between Iranians, Americans, and the Israelis.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be this red jewel that goes through the Sphinx head that opens up a chamber, and then after that we're going to see orbs, and I'm pointing to you, sir, because we discussed a little bit about orbs. And then they're going to come from the ocean, so you're going to see them in the sea, and then the extraterrestrials are going to make their presence known.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on that? Oh, by the way, before you go into that, it is not a jewel. Actually, it's Regulus, the Star of Regulus, and when the Star of Regulus goes right to the center of the head and appears above the Sphinx, it is this Easter.
Yeah.
No, I was going to ask, is that scheduled for
This Easter, this coming
today?
Sunday, folks. And what's interesting is he did this in 2012, but Space Force's logo is, if you look at it, it's the head of the Sphinx with a big star on the top of it. Please, I just want to know your take and your opinion, if you don't mind.
There's a lot going on there. Number one,
I know. Hold on,
you know where I'm going, right? That's all I do. Here's the problem. Okay, like there's a lot to get into here. So let me preface what I'm going to say with this. When I first heard the Bledsoe case, I myself have researched the White Lady throughout all of folklore and the case studies.
Okay.
And I knew her pathology got dark, weird, and physically weird. Wink, wink. Strange, guys. Strange. Like, you shouldn't be doing that to my people. Shouldn't be doing that to my wife. Right?
Yep.
Got into succubi cases. Now, I knew that, and I'm thinking, And so this White Lady, being a carefully curated narrative through various platforms, being hand-fed to us as the Virgin Mary, the question now is she even a virgin? Because Jim Simivan and Bryan, buddy, as my buddy Steve says, buddy. All right. So again, I knew the folklore and the case studies. So I knew there was a there, but I also questioned why we were being fed this curated narrative about her. Okay. It wasn't until Jim Simivan did an interview that the cat came out of the bag, and I went, see, there's a problem. Because what Bledsoe says is, yes, there are members of our intelligence community that have also experienced her. Right. But Simivan said that she was doing some very naughty things to these members of the intelligence community. So, right. So my point is, and I'm going to get to this in a second, but what Jim Simivan said was yes. Now, all right, I personally know the first researcher that worked with Bledsoe before he came out with his experiences publicly. And what he experienced initially was the same thing that Jim Simivan said he experienced initially. We're talking about an entity that would manifest in the Bledsoe household. Okay, imagine you're like eating dinner at night, and all of a sudden she just appears, hovering 2 feet off the ground, accompanied by shadow people that are terrorizing the children. Simivan says, oh, yeah, that happened, which I already knew that. But then he goes even further and he says, yes, and he backs up the fact that, yes, the intelligence community has experienced her. But they don't see her as the Virgin Mary or Hathor. Why? Because she was doing really, I'm not going to use the word, but really weird physical things to people and their wives. And so in the middle of these narratives, I have to come around and saying, well, we have a problem here, because what we're hearing is one thing. Meanwhile, what the intelligence community, they're saying, well, yeah, what she's actually doing behind closed doors is exactly what we've known her to do throughout all of folklore. That aside, I believe he's telling his truth, but I do not believe his abduction encounter happened at Cape Fear. If you read his book, UFO of God, he's outside of his local church after Sunday school, standing at the base of a tree when he has missing time as he's looking at an owl. Hello, Mike Cleland. How did you enter the conversation? That, I believe, was his initial abduction encounter. Fast forward to Cape Fear. Fast forward to the other manifestations. She comes to him and says, now you remember our agreement, right? When did that take place? Because I have a case study behind me in Beyond UFOs where the phenomenon, these beings had actually orchestrated a near-death experience. The guy really needed healed. And once they got him in their presence, they told him, your people, your physicians do not have the ability to heal you of this illness. We can do that, but you got to make a deal with us. And the deal, and Beyond UFOs from Ray Hernandez's group, the deal was this: if we help you heal, we heal you literally. You'll go back into your body. The deal is that when we call upon you, we want to use you as our voice. Fast forward to Bledsoe's first lecture at his first conference. Mid-sentence, his body is commandeered by another consciousness that he made a deal with. And now she's speaking through him. So I kind of, okay, I don't have an issue with the Bledsoes. I think that the government and the Vatican knows a lot more about her than what we're being fed on platforms. And that's it. That's all I've got.
And no. And on top of that, I mean, not only they know, but I think they've made their own deals.
Oh, 100%.
Again, when we get into this is great, Daniel Duke. Lady White reminds me of the art piece titled "The Holy Grail is carried in by Arthur Rankman when she has flames under her feet."
Mm-hmm.
We're getting, what I've noticed is there's tons of podcasts and don't get any more ratings. No. I've noticed that it seems like a lot of people throughout humanity in a very short period are advancing quicker and quicker mentally, and they're able to grok more information the proper way. Yeah. And they're becoming wiser and stronger and smarter. They're questioning everything. The age of Aquarius, which we're in, if you want to get on that spiritual side, isn't this like, hey, let's love each other? No, it's to be open, to take the information and to process, to question, to don't just take it as, oh, here's your cup of coffee. No, I didn't order coffee. Don't just sit there and have your cake that you didn't order, or that's not what I want. I want a chocolate, chocolate chip or whatever it is.
Yeah.
People right now are going, please stop talking about food, But my whole point is, for way too long, you've been dictated to. And I think the way the passage that we've been discussing, and we got to go back into, we'll get you back on because it's way too much. We got, a couple minutes left.
Nathaniel wanted to get into the Vatican too. That's
I'd love to get into the Vatican, but you never get out of that place.
Well, that was
literally Bryan.
That's a whole nother show.
I have this thing where I believe in the higher power, believe in God, believe in Jesus. I believe in other masters that were wiser than us, that have led that that were here before. And if the story of Jesus himself coming back, the second, like when his next coming, I just have this vision. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near the Vatican when he comes back.
No, people think he's going to be the lamb.
No, he's the lion when he comes back. And
Absolutely.
I've been working on something. I'm trying to orchestrate it because I'm using some AI for it. And I have this vision of Jesus. All you see is, you hear boom, boom, and you see dust. And then you see, it zooms into these sandals, and it's boom. And they're coming down a mountain. You're the gates. Oh my God, what's that? And there it is. And you get that sunspot where his face is being hidden because of all the glare. And then it slowly moves in. My name is Yeshua. I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
I'm a Yeshua guy, dude. I'm all out of gum. I'm a Yeshua guy too, buddy. I'm a Yeshua guy too. And the thing is, a lot of people, and I see this with every movement and every denomination, well, we're the house of God. We're the house of God. Okay. If you go back into biblical antiquity, where did judgment begin first, Bryan? House of God.
Yep.
And they're like,
see, this is where people, like, today is Passover, or Jesus would have been celebrating Passover. The Last Supper is a Passover supper.
There we go. People miss that, man. I had a conversation with a pastor.
People don't understand, like people that are like, if they talk, well, you're Jewish. Like, guess what? I always, my comment is when I hear this, by the way, so is Jesus.
Oh my God.
Keep on rocking. But
Killing it,
he's
killing
the
it.
one that got enlightened, and he took whatever, and he said, "Stop with all the control freaks over here and paying them for them to
Absolutely.
control you. Just talk to God."
The Sanhedrin, the
Yeah.
Pharisees, and that's profound. You've got it, and I think it's amazing because I had a conversation with a guy that he's like, yeah, like you don't need to keep the Feast of Pentecost. You just need to be Pentecostal. And I said, what's that even mean?
Exactly.
You realize how stupid that is. Like, yeah, you don't need to be, but and I grew up in Pentecostalism, and then I kind of, went into Hebrew roots a lot, was like, okay, like what is this? Understanding the nature, right? And so I know all about that stuff. And it was frustrating to hear this guy, like, yeah, I'm like, oh, they're keeping the feast, bud. What are you talking about? Like, you can't just rip it and then like, well, no, I'm Pentecostal. It's like, you keep the feast? No, I don't. It's like, those are incompatible in my mind.
And it's really weird. So I'm a Knights Templar. That's where the Sir comes from, by the way.
Okay.
And I did through a fraternal organization, which they dress up, they do allegory and whatever. I don't. I go by, you study the Templars and what they've learned from the Magi and this. They really got enlightened. It's about getting enlightened. When you say you should be enlightened, it comes Masonry comes from Knights Templar. They woke up to the fact, like, holy crap, the Vatican is just bullshit. So are these guys. We need to do this to make things right, whatever it is. And not they just recently, the Vatican allowed the Knights Templars back in, and they get these guys dressed as Knights Templars. And I'm like, the true individuals that would be what we call the true Knights Templars that started off and it was hanging out with the Magi and whatever, they never would set foot on that property whatsoever. Yeah. They would never do it. The only way they're going in there is if they're starting to take the big swords and just like, we're cleaning house. But I don't want to get into a religious subject with you. I can't thank you enough, Nathaniel.
Thanks,
Jay
man.
Gillis.
Thank you, guys.
If others want to reach you, where can they do that? Because I know we have a lot of people in my chat that have their own shows. One of which I think Fawn Miller. And Fawn is great. And she goes, oh boy, Bryan and Nathaniel, the same conversation.
Womp, womp, womp.
Yeah, exactly. So where can our audience and the listeners check you out and get to you? Not like to hurt you, but maybe get
yeah, right. Thanks, Bryan. Way to go, pal.
No.
How can they beat you up? Oh no, man. I know what you're saying. You can either email me at njgillis, GILLIS.com, or you can follow me on Instagram and DM me. I try to look at my DMs more often.
I find that email sucks today. Yeah. It's like really shitty email. So that's why I have 600,000 emails. I have not checked. Don't email me. But I do the quick, like the Instagram and the Facebook. Or text. If you're privileged enough to get the number, don't take it the wrong way. I don't give it out to everybody. That's the way to reach me quickly.
That'll work.
Yeah, you already got Michelle already gave Nathaniel an invitation.
Yes. I would love Nathaniel on my show. I can, Michelle, she's wonderful. She's good at what she does as well. And she's one of the nicest persons I've ever met in my life.
And a great singer.
Yes. Again, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to let you get going. We end the show with a song I wrote called You. And if it wasn't for you, Nathaniel, and you, Marcus Eddius, my half partner in crime, and everybody in the chat, we wouldn't be doing this. But we wish you prayers, healing, recovery, blessings always. Easter is, I believe, Sunday. Be careful. Don't eat too much. And
watch out for the meteorites too. You were bringing up the
that's a
star over the Sphinx
on Brandy from Blondes and Booze is in the chat, and I'm going to be on Blondes and Booze as sitting there, and I may ask her if we can bring it up. And tomorrow I'll be on Awake Nation from 9:30 to 10 in the morning, and then I I may be a bit on Agent X11 from 12 to whenever, but that's with the
Penny.
physicist, yes, and the rocket scientist. Nathaniel, God bless you. Have a great
Bless you
Easter,
guys.
and we're gonna see everybody a little bit later. You don't have to stay backstage, by the way. If you gotta go, you gotta go. So,
All right, guys. You guys have a good night.
have a great night, everybody.
Bye,
God
everyone.
bless.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
You, it's always been you. God showed me you. I have been searching decades for you. I found you, I lost you. My heart is broken without you. My soul aches for you. I need you, I want you. My days are filled with you. I've seen the future with you. My home is with you. I have felt the future with you. My nights are filled with you. Love is you. True love is you. My happiness is you. Every past life is with you. My dreams are filled with you. Life is meaningless without you. My future is with you. I will fight for you. I will defend you. I will give up my life for you. Whatever it takes for you. Nothing else matters but you. I love you. I love you. I love you. God showed me you. I have been searching decades for you. I found you, I lost you. My heart is broken without you. My soul aches for you. I need you, I want you. My days are filled with you. I have seen the future with you. My home is with you. I have felt the future with you. My nights are filled with you. Love is you, true love is you. Love is you, true love is you. My happiness is you. Every past life is with you. My dreams are filled with you. Life is meaningless without you. My future is with you. I will fight for you. I will defend you. I would give up my life for you. Whatever it takes for you. Nothing else matters but you. I love you. I love you. Life is meaningless without you. My future is with you.